Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Tracy Tooten, and this is a presentation that introduces the lessons of marketing strategy. You are all marketing strategy students now, and over the course of our semester, we'll be learning about all of the steps in marketing strategy. But to get us started, let's take a look at some basic concepts that will help us better understand the path that we're going to be covering over the coming semester. First off, let's think about what is marketing. If I were here with you in person, I would ask you to come up with a word or phrase that means marketing to you. Just imagine that over the weekend, you're going to be visiting some friends or family, and you're going to say, "What have you been working on recently?" And you'll say, "Studying marketing strategy." And one of those people might ask you, "What is marketing? I don't actually know what that means." What word or phrase would you use to describe marketing to them? Think about that for a moment. Oftentimes, the words that come to mind are advertising or sales. Those are important aspects of marketing, but they aren't the only aspects of marketing. And that's a really critical thing for you to grasp as we begin to move forward, because there are so many elements to marketing. And that's why believers of marketing, marketing strategists, will oftentimes say that marketing really should be at the core of any organization, because what we do touches everything in the company, everything in the organization. So let's take a look at how the AMA defines marketing. In 2003, the AMA defined marketing as an organizational function and a set of processes. That's true. The AMA has also revised the definition since 2003. But some elements are still very valuable from this early definition, and those are creating, communicating, and delivering value. And you will see those elements stay in any discussion that we have about marketing in the coming time that we study together. So creating, what do we create? We create an offer. We have to communicate the availability of that offer if we can expect to make exchanges with prospective customers. And we have to deliver value. And really delivering value is in many ways the core of what we're doing. And we have to do all of that in a way that meets our organizational objectives and benefits the stakeholders that we have for the organization. In 2007, the AMA refined this definition, and it grew much broader, being defined as the activity, set of institutions, and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. So what changed between 2003 and 2007? Well, in some ways, not very much. You still see the core verbs, the core actions of creating, communicating, and delivering, but we became much more clear about the need for an exchange to take place, and that is absolutely true. If our target audience does not exchange their money for our offer, we will not stay in business very long, and that's even true if we are a not-for-profit. We have to be able to make exchanges in order to survive and to excel. So exchange was added here, and if you look back through time, exchange existed in earlier definitions of marketing as well. But it's been revived here, importantly. But you can also see that marketing became more broad in the AMA's definition of marketing. Not only an organizational function and set of processes, but also an activity, even a set of institutions. So we became much more broad in understanding the scope of marketing as well as the processes of marketing. Unfortunately, if we are students of marketing, which we all are, that makes it a little bit more difficult for us to understand what our role actually is. How do we know then what it is that we should be doing? How do we use our understanding of marketing to guide the decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis. So the definition that I like to use is the definition from the Oxford English Dictionary, which published in 1455 that marketing means to sell or bring to market. Think about that. Hundreds of years ago, we knew what marketing is. It's to sell or bring to market. That is really the key of what we need to understand our jobs as marketers and the decisions that we need to make to plan marketing strategy, to sell or bring to market. And I also want to point out that to sell is a part of this definition. When I do that exercise about what word or phrase comes to mind when you think of marketing, oftentimes, especially if I'm speaking to non-marketers, they will say advertising and selling. And that makes sense because as consumers, we are exposed to thousands of ads every day, and we are accustomed to salespeople selling us something. And when we say selling, people tend to think negative. They tend to think unethical. They tend to think the worst scenario of used car salesman type of things. But that's not what it's meant to be. It is meant to be an explanation of how an offer can meet the needs of a prospective customer. And in that brings value to the prospect and to the organization. So to sell is not a bad thing. In fact, it's a joyous thing. It's fantastic. When I was in high school, my first job was as a sales clerk at a ladies' clothing boutique. It was a family-owned business called Lewis's, and it was the place for women in my small town to come and have the latest in fashion and really have top-notch customer service. Every day when the owner, Bill Morgan, would leave the store, he would say, "Sell, sell, sell. A busy woman is a happy woman." And I embraced that as an affirmation for life. And I still hear those words every day of my life. Sometimes I replace them with teach, teach, teach. But he knew that selling is a good thing. It means that we are meeting the needs of our customers and we're meeting the needs of our organization. So I hope you will take that affirmation with you as you move forward in this journey of marketing strategy. So our definition is going to be based on that definition from the Oxford English Dictionary, and we will use the definition of marketing means going to market. That means that any decision that we must make in order to go to market and to do so successfully, that's marketing. And it is broad. It is a lot of decisions. It encompasses so many things, but when we keep that at the heart of what we do, it can really still help us to focus on what good strategic thinking means. So with what do we go to market? Well, we go to market with an offer or an offering. You can say it either way, offer or offering. And what is an offer? Well, if we are selling a good, it is the marketing mix made up of 4 P's. If we're selling a service or a good with service components, there are 7 P's. And this I also love to share with you because the marketing mix was first codified in 1959 by Professor Jerome McCarthy. And when I was many years ago a marketing student in the first Principles of Marketing class in my undergraduate experience, Jerome McCarthy's textbook, Basic Marketing, was the textbook that I first learned from. And his codification of an offer as the marketing mix, as the 4 P's, is no less true today than it was in 1959. The only variation is that because we have become very much a service economy, there are some additional P's in the marketing mix if there is a service component that we need to deal with. So let's take a look at those. So the marketing mix includes the 4 P's for goods: product, place, price, and promotion. And if we have a service component, or if our product is entirely a service, we have 3 additional P's: people, process, and physical environment. Now, within each of those P's in the marketing mix, we have many, many choices that we can make. And part of what we have to do in planning strategic marketing, we choose the opportunities that we want to pursue. We analyze that environment. We understand the target audience that we're pursuing. And then we do what is called design to value. We design to value the offer that will best meet the target audience's needs while remaining within the resources that we have available as an organization. That's what we're going for this whole time. We are designed to value. Value for the target audience, value for us. And the 7 P's represents the range of the offer within which we can make those design decisions. Now, a lot of times we hear product design, product design, product design over and over and over again. In fact, some of you may work for organizations that have design to value, but in most cases, it's going to be product design engineers using that design to value philosophy. What I want to tell you here and now is that we can design to value across the entire offer. We are not limited to the product P in making our design decisions. We have 7 P's to make our design decisions about. And so you want to use all of them. And if you don't believe me, just think about, have you ever been in a situation where you purchased a product that you thought was inferior, but you did it for some other reason? I bet you have. You might have done it because of the price point. You might have done it because of distribution. You might have done it because of promotion. Lots of reasons that we might make a decision based on one of the other P's, not the product P. And vice versa. The same kind of thing. So what you have to remember is that an offer is not the product. It is the product, but it's also 6 other P's. The marketing mix, we have all of those to design the best possible offer, to give ourselves the competitive advantage, to meet the needs of our customers, and ultimately to also ensure the success of our organization. And you can see on the screen now the sum of the decisions that go along with those 7 P's. And this is just a sampling of those. There are many, many decisions that can go into planning the strategy of a value offer across all 7 P's. But I just want you to remember those. For instance, product doesn't just include a good or a service, it's also the packaging and the brand, all of the augmented elements of the core offer that are provided or offered to those prospective customers. Price is not simply the price that we place on the rate of exchange, but it includes elements of strategy, such as, are we offering financing? Is there residual value? Are there trade-in opportunities? Are there financing opportunities? So many elements to that price decision that we make that become a part of the design to value offer. Likewise, with promotion, that's communicating, but we have so many options to communicate, and it might not just be about the specific offer, but about the promise that our organization is bringing to market, about what we want our brand to mean, how we're going to position that brand. And if you're thinking, okay, well, I remember the 4 P's, product, place, price, promotion, but what about these other 3 that you keep talking about? Well, those 3 are so important because of the way that services are both manufactured and consumed. If we produce a good, we produce the good well before the target audience ever sees that good in the chain of distribution. But if we produce a service, we produce the service while the customer is there consuming the service. There is no time lag to the production of that service. And for that reason, that means that services are quite different than goods. And that's why we have these 3 additional P's. The first one is people. Who provides the service? A person provides a service. Now, granted, we have bots and whatnot as digital marketing has evolved, but still, the essence of service is that there is a service provider who is providing that service. The service provider is literally manufacturing the service at the same point in time that the customer is consuming the service. That's why this P has to be a part of it. How good is that experience? Well, it probably depends on the person providing, depends on the service provider. And for that reason, in marketing, we call these people boundary spanners because they literally span the boundary between the organization and the customer. So how good is the offer going to be? Just as good as the person providing it. And that's why it is imperative to us as marketers, if we are offering a service, that we have chosen the best possible people to represent our brand, that we've trained them, that we've made sure that they are knowledgeable about the product, about implications, about pricing, about how to provide great service, that we've empowered them. All of those things then are critical to the offer being a success. Another additional P for services is process. Process. You might be thinking, why process? Why would that matter? Well, again, remember, if we are offering a good, we have this good manufactured well before the customer ever sees it. If there are flaws, if there are errors, if our manufacturing facility isn't clean, if we have quality problems, whatever, we have lots of opportunity to fix those problems before the customer ever sees our good as an available option. All of those things we could say are behind the line of visibility. Behind the line of visibility. The prospective customer doesn't know that we had all of those problems. As long as we bring to market a good that is good, sorry about the pun, then that's all they need to know. They don't need to know how many issues we had in our processes. But again, if the customer is purchasing a service from us, they experience the service at the point that we manufacture the service. That means that the process has to be right. And even in those cases, there are elements of the process that we can probably keep behind that line of visibility and not have to subject our customer to it. Just imagine, the last time that you went to, say, a doctor's office, and maybe you were shuffled from room to room while, yet another person took your blood pressure, weighed you, asked questions you've been asked 1,000 times before that should be in your record, and so on. And you're shuffled, and you probably still had to wait 45 minutes or an hour to be able to actually do what you came there to do that day. Well, you know what? That's a process issue. Much of that could have been handled first behind the line of visibility, and what couldn't have been handled behind the line of visibility could have been improved operationally so that your experience was far better than it was. And that is part of our mission when we are marketing services, is to make that process be as good as it possibly can be. And if there are elements that we cannot control in terms of being able to be pleasurable, be a positive experience for the customer, well, then we can provide some augmented services. We can do other things like having Wi-Fi in the office, or snacks on hand, or included daycare, or whatever it might be. Things that can at least eliminate the pain point associated with the customer dealing with areas of process control that we could not redesign. So that's what process is about. And lastly, we have physical environment. And physical environment is important because of how people evaluate the likely chance of success when they are moving into an exchange with us as marketers. If we are considering goods, we can go and feel the goods, we can smell it, we can touch it, oftentimes we can test it out. but we can handle it. We have tangible evidence as to whether or not that product is likely to meet our needs. You know what? For services, unless we've experienced that specific service in advance, unless we are a repeat customer, we can't do that. So how do we know? How do we know if it's going to be good? We will look for physical evidence. They are cues. Physical, tangible evidence serve as cues for us as to what we can likely experience. And just think about any of the recent choices that you've made for services. You probably noticed how clean the environment was, how knowledgeable the people were, how if there were repairs that needed to be made, if the ambiance of the location seemed like it was very upscale, or if it was more local, hate to say downscale, but downscale. All of those physical elements, what you can see, touch, taste, hear, feed into your understanding of whether the service provided at that location, at that organization, is likely to meet your needs. And to some extent, even those physical, tangible elements could influence your perception of what you got after the fact. It'll be part of the experience. And in fact, that said, I want to just point out that increasingly, I think we're probably going to see a shift in this particular P. Currently, physical evidence, I think it's going to shift to something like physical experience, because we're really in tune now with recognizing that this whole offer, these 7 Ps, all create an experience for our customer. And to the extent that we can improve that experience, we're going to be better marketers. So those are the 7 Ps. And those are the 7 Ps that we have to use in designing an offer to bring to market. But what we're doing in this course includes that, but also includes some other elements, some decisions that have to take place before we design to value. And that is why we are studying strategic marketing. This is no easy task. Otherwise, everybody will be doing it. And why? Why is it no easy task? Well, we have 3 C's. We have 3 C's that cause us issues every single day of our lives as marketing strategists. Those are competition, complexity, and change. Unless we are in a monopoly, we will have competition. We will have lots of competition. We'll have current competition. We'll have competition from substitutes. We'll have the threat of new competition, all of those things. And we have to understand that any decision that we make, the second we make that decision and show any implementation whatsoever, the competition is going to respond. And vice versa, if the competition does something that will affect our plans in the marketplace, we have to respond. Never ending, never ending. And we live in a very complex environment. Many of us are in global situations. Even if you are a local small business, you might be buying goods from markets around the world and dealing with exchange rate changes and weather issues and transportation issues and import-export regulations and so on. So we live in a very, very complex environment to make these marketing decisions. And then finally, and perhaps most importantly, things are always changing. So we can go through the steps that I'm going to talk to you about as we move forward in our understanding of marketing strategy, but it's always going to change. We can't run a SWOT analysis, which we're going to talk a lot about in the future, and then say, hey, we did that. It's done. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We know the information. You have to always be monitoring for changes in the environment that will change the outcomes of that analysis. So change is a constant. Sometimes marketing professors refer to this as uncertainty. I don't care if you call it uncertainty, change, or something else. The key message is you can't just say that step is done. The step is never done. You always have to be aware, always, always, always. So those 3 C's make our jobs difficult. They also make them pretty interesting. So what we want to do then is to make decisions in a way that will meet the objectives of our organization, help our organization achieve its mission and ultimately its vision, do so in a way that manages these 3 C's and ultimately creates a competitive advantage so that we can have sustainable success. So is it ever done? No, never done. But that's what we're after, this sustainable success that can come about from having a competitive advantage. So something for us to think about is the levels of planning that strategists have to manage. And generally, we would say there are 3 levels, but they're all relevant no matter which level you are working within. So here on the slide, you see the basic levels of planning. And we have the strategic level. And remember, our class is about marketing strategy. That said, that may mean that we're operating in the strategic level, or we might be operating at the business level. The strategic plan level of the organization as a whole is the overarching mission and vision and why for that organization. And absolutely, it should encompass all of the marketing decisions. It's also going to encompass some other aspects beyond marketing. So just keep that in mind. There's also the business model, and depending on the breadth and depth of your organization, this business model might be replicated across many strategic business units in your organization, or even within strategic business units may be replicated in terms of various product portfolios and different target audiences that exist within those SBUs. And then ultimately, we have to have an operational plan. The operations of the organization. That is, how does the business strategies come to life tactically? And you know what? You might be thinking, oh, you know what? We're going to operate in the business model level because we're marketing, so we're not managing the entire corporate strategy, and we're not operations. But in fact, we're going to cross all 3 of these, because every plan that we make, every analysis that we do, will be consistent with our organization's mission and vision, or should be, and will be relevant to the strategic business unit within which we're working. And if we're small business, it's one, but if we're Procter & Gamble, there could be many, many SBUs and even hundreds of product portfolios that we're working within. And then operationally, does it matter? Absolutely it does. Because when we bring that design to value offer to market, we bring it to market, we're operationalized. We are tactical at that stage. So we're going to cross all 3 of these levels, even though we say what we are doing is strategic planning for marketing. So something to keep in mind is that all of these key vocabulary terms that we're talking about, they all work together. And no matter what level of marketing you're working within with your organization, they still all work together. I don't care if you are, maybe you're the pricing analyst for your organization, and you think, oh, I'm all operations, I'm very end of stage in bringing an offer to market. I don't care. You still are doing work that facilitates the success of your organization, the probability of success for your organization of bringing that offer to market, and doing so in a way that will help to meet the overarching mission and vision of your organization. And so what I have here on the slide is just some key things that we tend to say when we're talking about strategic planning. We talk about mission. So any decision that you make, no matter how close to the operational line you are, should be consistent with the mission of your organization. And there will be goals. Sometimes there'll be quarterly goals, there might be yearly goals, there might be 5-year goals, but every decision that you make, ultimately, you should be able to see how it sort of levels up into that goal of the organization. and you will have specific objectives that you will meet. And we'll talk more about how to write objectives as they relate to specific strategies and specific tactics that we are planning. You always have to know how to measure those objectives. And how do we do that? Well, we do that with key performance indicators. Key performance indicators are going to tell us, how are we performing? How are we doing? We're going to have the strategies, and that will be our focus moving forward. What will be the strategies to accomplish the objectives and to meet the needs of the market? And how will we execute those strategies? We're going to do it with tactics. We'll spend less time on tactics, but we will get there because we cannot design to value an offer without tactics. And we have to measure. What do we measure? We measure the metrics. Those will be the specific ways that we measure those key performance indicators. So whatever the variables were that we chose as indicators of success, as KPIs, we're going to measure those with our metrics. It is nothing more than our ruler, but we have to know what the metrics are in order to see how we're doing and to make changes moving forward. So all of these things work together, and I don't care how close to the market you are in your organization or how far away you are from the market in your organization, all of these elements must work together. And so we have some specific steps that we're going to go through, and we're going to begin next with those. First, conducting a situation analysis, and that encompasses a lot of things, from a basic SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, a clear industry analysis of what's happening in the industry. We have Porter's 6 forces analysis for that, as well as identifying, scoping key opportunities that might represent openings in the market for us. So a lot that we're going to be doing there. And of course, we're doing that in the context of understanding what we must do as marketers to fulfill our organization's mission and vision. From there, we're going to identify specific marketing objectives, and we will assess the opportunities that we have available to us and the target markets that are relevant for that. So we're going to go through segmentation procedures and what that means for us in terms of gathering insight about our target audiences. Once we choose what markets to pursue, what opportunities to pursue, we're going to talk about how we get demand and how we address our options. Are we focused on retaining customers and or acquiring new customers? Are we focused on stimulating primary demand? Are we focused on stimulating secondary demand, even stealing demand from our competition? What position must we own in the marketplace in order to distinguish ourselves, differentiate ourselves from the competition? And what of those positions would also promise a value to our target audience, serve as a value proposition? And then ultimately, what will be the tactics that allow us to execute on that strategy? And once we execute, we always measure and use that as a feedback loop. So that's where we're headed on this, this journey through marketing strategy. I look forward to working with you.